morning. My name is Miss Holmes, and today we're going to write a compare and contrast paragraph about friendship. In order to participate in today's lesson, you need three things. Number one, you need a pencil. Number two, you need some paper. And number three, you need an open mind. Now, I'm sure you have the last, so go ahead and go and get the other two. You can pause this video if you need to. I'll be right here. Today we're going to begin with this essential question. How is friendship portrayed by Robert Frost? So how does he portray friendship? Today we're going to read two poems. One is called A Time to Talk, and the other is called The Mending Wall. Both come from this text. Do you see this name, Robert Frost? Well, who was he? On your paper, I would like for you to give me 3 facts about Robert Frost, not including his date of birth or where he's from, but about his writing. Go ahead and pause this video. I'll be waiting. So what did you come up with? Did you know that Robert Frost was a great American poet? And he was admired for his depiction of rural life, meaning that he wrote in a way that people could understand the lives of just regular, ordinary people. Now, what made this so extraordinary is poets were usually people of a higher stature who dealt with people of higher statures. But Robert Frost was unique because he told the stories of ordinary people, just like you and just like me. Today, we're going to read a poem called A Time to Talk. Follow along with me as I read this poem. A Time to Talk by Robert Frost. When a friend calls to me from the road and slows his horse to a meaning walk, I don't stand still and look around. On all the hills I have it hold and shout from where I am, what is it? No, not as there is a time to talk. I thrust my hoe in the mellow ground, blade end up and 5 feet tall, and plod I go up to the stone wall for a friendly visit. What images did you get into your mind from this poem? Let me show you a picture. Is this what you were thinking? This poem uses imagery to allow us to be able to see the images with our mind. Now, did you see a man who was being called from his friend and he was out in his garden? So instead of him saying that he was busy, he decided to throw his tool down and go and see what his friend wanted. I wonder what they talked about. Is that good characteristic of a friend? Well, let's see if Robert Frost looks at friendship differently. We're going to read a poem called The Mending Wall. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that sends the frozen ground swell under it, and spills the upper boulders in the sun, and makes gaps even two can pass abreast. The work of hunters is another thing. I have come after them and made repair. When they have left not one stone on a stone, but they would have the rabbit out of hiding to please the yelping dogs. The gaps, I mean, no one has seen them made or heard them made, but at the spring mending time, we find them there. I let my neighbor know beyond the hill, and on a day we meet to walk the line, and set the wall between us once again. We keep the wall between us as we go, to each the boulders that have fallen to each. And some are lows and some so nearly balls. We have to use a spell to make them balance. Stay where you are until our backs are turned. We wear our fingers rough when handling them. Oh, just another kind of outdoor game on one on a side. It comes to little more. There where it is, we do not need to the wall. He is all pine, and I am apple orchard. My apple trees will never get across and eat the cones under his pines. I tell him, he only says, good fences make good neighbors. Spring is the mischief in me, and I wonder if I could put a notion in his head. Why do they make good neighbors? Isn't it where there are no cows? But here there are no cows. Before I built a wall, I'd ask to know what I was walling in or walling out, and to whom I was like to give offense. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that wants it down. I could say elves to him, but it's not elves exactly. And I rather he said it for himself. I see him there, bringing a stone grasped firmly by the top in each hand, like an old stone savage armed. He moves in silence, as it seems to me, not of woods only, and the shade of trees. He will not go behind his father's saying, and he likes having thought of it so well. He says again, good fences make good neighbors. Now, when reading poetry, it is very important to have a second read. Use the links below to open the poems, and I want you to pause this video and read it again for yourself. While you are reading it, I want you to make notes about what do you notice about the men in the first poem versus the men in the second. Pause this video. I'll be right here. Now, you're back. What did you come up with? On your paper, I want you to make a chart like the one that I have here. On one side, I want you to put the title, A Time to Talk. And on the other side, I want you to put The Mending Wall. You're going to make sure that you have both of these poems in quotation marks as they belong to whom? Robert Frost. On your paper, I want you to jot down some differences and similarities between the men in A Time to Talk versus the men in The Mending Wall. I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to come up with 3 findings about these men. Pause the video here. Now, guys, what did you come up with? Let's take a look closer in the first poem. A Time to Talk. Now, what was the friend doing in the first poem? Did you come up with that he was gardening? Yes. And when his friend called him, did he say, "What do you want?" No, he didn't. Instead, he put down his tool and he went to his friend. What did he say about? He said, "I go up to the stone wall for a friendly visit." So what can we gather about this friendship? Well, we know that he interrupts his work to have a friendly chat with his neighbor because he's interested in what his neighbor has to say. Now let's look into the mending wall to see if we have the similar ideas. Now, what do you notice about this poem? Did you write down that these are neighbors who have a wall in between them? What may the wall do for the neighbors? Well, walls can protect. True. Walls can also be a barrier. What is a barrier? Well, a barrier is a structure that keeps people out. Perhaps these neighbors have built walls to let people know that there are boundaries that separate them. Perhaps. Now, what do you notice about the two men that speak in the mending wall? Let your finger drag down to the line that says, I let my neighbor know beyond the hill. Let's read those lines. I let my neighbor know beyond the hill, and on a day we meet to walk the line and set the wall between us once again. We keep the wall between us as we go. We keep the wall between us as we go. So, as they speak, do you see how neither of them cross over into another neighbor's yard? They keep the wall between them. What may they say about their friendship? Follow us where we go to He is all pine. Let's read that line together. He is all pine, and I am apple orchard. My apple trees will never get across and eat the cones under his pines. I tell him, he only says, good fences make good neighbor. Good fences make good neighbors. Well, what is the neighbor saying to this speaker here? Do you think maybe he's saying that fences make boundaries and boundaries protect friendships? So good fences, strong fences, fences that are not raggedy or broken down, make good neighbors because they force neighbors to accept the boundaries that exist between the two. Now, one more line. Remember, I asked you to have 3. Follow down to where you say, he said it for himself. Do you see that line? He said it for himself. I see him there, bringing a stone grasped firmly by the top in each hand like an old stone savage armed. He moves in darkness as it seems to me, not of woods only in the shade of trees. He will not go behind his father's saying, and he likes having thought of it so well. He says again, good fences make good neighbors. What do we see here? Well, we see that one man is constantly rebuilding the wall because as he has learned from his own father that good fences make good neighbors. So what do we see about the friendship in this poem? Well, we see that these people have boundaries. Do you think that this neighbor would have stopped working to see what the neighbor wanted to say to him? Do you feel a friendly mood from this poem? Or is it more cold? Which one would you say? I would say cold too. Now that we've looked at these poems, we're going to go back to our essential question of the day. Remember, our question is, how is friendship portrayed by Robert Frost? You're going to take 5 minutes to write a paragraph that introduces this question. How is friendship portrayed by Robert Frost? What are the differences between the friendships that are introduced in the poems that we read today? If you need some guidance in writing your paragraph and you don't know where to start, remember to refer to my chart here. Remember, all paragraphs begin with a topic sentence. Next, you're going to introduce the context. So you need to let the reader know a little bit about the poem and what is happening. Next, you're going to find a quote. Don't forget to put that quote into parentheses, into quotation marks, symbolizing that they are Robert Frost's words and not ours. Lastly, you're going to analyze in 2 sentences. You're going to analyze the meaning of those lines. And lastly, you're going to analyze how these lines help to reiterate your first point. Remember, today you're going to be writing about friendship and how these poems display friendship. I can't wait to read what you have. Make sure that when you write your paragraph, you're going to type it up into a Google Draft as soon as you're done. Don't forget your name so I can give you credit. Have a wonderful day, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow because we're going to analyze our paragraphs and see how well we wrote. Have a great day.